Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing two of the best renditions of Ronnie Coleman, the 2003 Olympia and the 2004 Russian Grand Prix. We'll take a look at 9 different poses, judging each to varying degrees, to really see if the 2004 Russian Grand Prix Ronnie was superior to that of 2003. Many of you know just how impressive Ronnie was at the 2003 Olympia, with legends of the sport going on record saying that this version was unbeatable. Just how true is this statement? Well, with these rare 2004 pictures, we'll see if this statement can be disproven. Anyways, before we start, if you guys are enjoying my content, a like and sub is greatly appreciated as we are extremely close to the big 20k. With that all being said though, let's start this comparison. The front double is a very strong pose for both versions, which is obvious because it's Ronnie Coleman we're talking about. His arms were great almost every year apart from 2006 and 2007 when they became asymmetrical. These 2 years may have been the best for his arm size, being 03 and 04, as those biceps and triceps have never looked so peaked and swept, particularly for 2003 where his biceps are significantly more filled out. Looking at the midsection, Ronnie's in 2003 is more defined and toned, however down by the obliques his waist begins to protrude at the seams. This isn't the case for 04 where his abs may be less defined, however his waist is trimmer and more streamlined. Both years are nearly identical when it comes to the flare and muscularity of the lats, however 2003 has more cuts in the intercostals. Moving downstairs, there's no doubt that 03's legs present deeper separation in the quads, especially in the left quad compared to 2004. Now, granted, 04 isn't planting the left foot down all the way into the floor, which minimizes the potential shreds and detail. He does have a grainier, more mature skin texture across the entire physique, with more visible vascularity for 04, while 2003 seems fresher, more youthful, and thinner skinned. In my opinion, although 2004 has a cleaner silhouette, grainier condition, and similar size, 2003's thinner skin, clearer details, and fuller appearance triumph over anything 2004 brings, at least in this pose. In the front lat spread, Ronnie looks rather awkward in 2003, whereas 2004 looks much more relaxed and composed, thanks to those lowered shoulders. Something about Ronnie's 2003 front lat spread has always looked funny to say the least, since his shrugged shoulders, compressed head, and wrinkled neck all grab your attention. These slight flaws detract from his overall physique, which can hurt you, however nobody was beating Ronnie even when he had a triple chin. Obviously, it's a completely different story when going up against a very competent version of himself, and here I'd say that 2004 looks markedly better. His upper body is posed more naturally, he opens up and takes advantage of his clavicle width, and his proportions just flow. To be fair, Ronnie isn't head-on in 2003, which is a disadvantage. However, you can clearly see that he is no better in the lats, arms, or delts. He does look more strided in the chest and has finer cuts in the quads. However, Ronnie's 2004 version is very comparable in size, and even shows off some quad feathering on his previously detailed lacking left leg. Since neither are notably larger than the other in any area, it boils down to a slightly more detailed 03 physique versus a better posed 04. Now personally, 2004's posing makes all the difference, however both are great from a physique standpoint. Turning to the side, in the side chest we have a clear difference between these two top versions of Ronnie. I feel like 03 was the last year where Ronnie truly had that thin skin conditioning, as from 04 onwards he was thicker, grainier, but not nearly as trim in certain areas. This doesn't entirely apply though, since he looked great at the 05 Olympia, however it's more of a generalized statement. Just take a look at the freshness of Ronnie's arm and delt, along with his side leg, and tell me that you don't see the difference between a razor-sharp, finely separated physique contrasted with a more rugged, robust 04. Even in harder-to-see areas like the midsection, 2003 presents refinements that 04 just lacks, like in the aforementioned intercostals or in between the abdominals. All that being said, Ronnie in 2004 was a true tank, as he looks monstrous in the arm, delt, and side leg size, almost dwarfing 2003 in that area. If anything, the lighting difference makes a big difference between the perceived condition of Ronnie, which is something to consider. While I could talk about the side chest differences all day, In short, Ronnie's 2003 version is slightly better in separation and intricate detail, whereas 04 looks rougher and more mature, while having tons of size and decent detail. I think that 2003 might barely grab this one here, but like in the front lat spread, this one could go either way. 04's freaky proportions and mass might be enough to squeeze out a victory, so let me know which year you would pick. Here's the first of the two back poses, the rear double, a pose which was and still is an absolute blowout against anyone. This is even more true with these 2 years, as he was at his all-time best and biggest as well, while simultaneously having incredible conditioning. Looking at the two, both are comparable in lat width, trap size, and lower lat insertions, specifically in regards to any signs of atrophy down there. Glutes and hamstrings are even as well, with 2003 having more shadowed calves, but not by much. The lighting in 2003 is definitely doing favors for Ronnie, since the light perfectly bounces off all the crevices and canyons across that back in his legs and arms, creating a mind-blowing result. 2004 isn't as blessed in that regard, however the size, condition, and fullness are all spot on. If anything, I prefer the Dorian-esque grainy quality to 2004's physique, making him look a tad bit better than 03. I mean, the muscularity, size, and everything are basically the same, so it comes down to preference. Do you like a fresher, more polished skin texture, or a coarse, almost weathered and battle-worn facade? I would go with 2004 since I really like that second option, however, this comparison really is neck and neck. The Christmas tree pose is not a mandatory pose, however, it is basically mandatory to review when it comes to looking at Ronnie. In my opinion, this shot is only second to Dorian Yates when it comes to the back itself, and when looking at the total package, the best ever. Nobody had those glutes and hamstrings. I mean, even almost 3 decades later, nobody has come even close apart from maybe Phil Heath. Here, 2003's subtler details are what wins the shot, especially due to that lighting. You can really see just how perfectly the lighting highlights the definition, while also casting shadows across those deeply carved hamstrings and perfectly shredded glutes. 2004 isn't bad at all, however, this is a pose which doesn't necessarily favor grainy skin texture. The rear lat spread, like the rear double, is a competitive pose to say the least. Compiling everything I've already said, 2003 has more pronounced details in the lower and upper bodies, all resulting from superior lighting. When it comes to sheer mass, I would go with 04 mainly due to the flare of the outer quads and hamstring development. Whether it's actually a tangible size difference or the result of superior posing, 2004 just looks better downstairs. Backs are also close, however, 2004 leans way forward, which can detract from potential definition of the back, especially from the bright lights. 2003 perfectly positions the back at an angle to maximize and make the most out of the lighting, whereas the lean and tilt for 04 isn't really doing the back any justice. Really analyzing reveals that their width, thickness, and definition are similar, with little differences being seen. All in all, while 2004 may have the upper hand in the legs, 2003 poses more effectively and does have a competitive lower body as well. That being said, all of these poses have been extremely close calls, and this one is no exception. Although I'm going to go with 03 here, tell me in the comments if you would choose 04, or which year you would have winning in the back poses overall. In the side tricep, neither version of Ronnie looks great, with this being the first disappointing shot of the comparison. Man, Ronnie really had one of the worst midsection tricep combos out of any Olympia champion, more so later on in his career. His tricep really is not the best genetically, and his midsection is really thick and kind of wide as well. Looking closer at the tricep, you can clearly see that 2003 has easily recognizable feathering and cleaner separation too, whereas 2004's tricep is almost washed out and doesn't have the same depth in the inner horseshoe. There is tons of vascularity and granite-esque texture all over his physique, however, the tricep itself goes to 03 no doubt. The side leg is a different story though, as like in the side chest, 04 looks substantially better in this area, mainly due to better posing. He's also angled more favorably, which leads to a thicker, denser looking hamstring. Cuts and shreds are relatively even, however the muscle maturity of 04 is more impressive and seals the deal downstairs. Going back up and examining the midsections, you can probably tell that neither are the greatest in this aspect. 2003 has far more refined details within the abs, however he's no more streamlined than 04. If anything, the chest and delt are more impressive on 04, making this a tight battle for first in the side tricep. It comes down to the wire, with 2003 winning the tricep midsection and fresher muscular quality, while 04 has grainier skin texture, a better side leg, and takes the chest and shoulders. I think that 04 would probably take this, since that skin texture really adds another layer of freak factor to an already massive and freaky physique. However, I can see someone going with 03 for the better tricep and midsection, two very, very important aspects of the pose. Here's the second most disappointing pose of the comparison, the ab and thigh. The reason why this is such a disappointing shot lies within two reasons. One is that his abs are genetically inferior, and two, because his waist grew so large. Since he's competing against himself, these two things are barely a factor. However, against a guy like Flex Wheeler, Jay Cutler, Sean Ray, or Chris Cormier, Ronnie loses 10 out of 10 times. Like in the frontal poses prior to this, 2003 showcases the best separation, not only in the abs, but also in the obliques and serratus. He looks drier and razor sharp, whereas 2004 does have a film of something across that midsection, presenting washed out obliques and underwhelming abs. Lats and quads are virtually the same in size across the 2 years. However, 03 does have those refined cuts in the quads and potentially thicker lats. Now, it is hard to really judge this pose due to Ronnie's slight twist in 03, contrasted with the straight up and down vertical posing of 04. That being said, I think 03 handily wins the midsection, quads, and lats, leading to a better V-taper, superior total detail, and a more elusive silhouette. The last pose, the most muscular, is a staple Ronnie Coleman pose. From the beginning to the end, Ronnie was an absolute beast in this pose, as his arms, traps, chest, and even his midsection come to life. Now, that last part was more so of a joke, since you can really see that he lets it all hang down. While this may be a problem for some, Ronnie's massive guns, thickly developed chest, cannonball delts, and flared quads all overshadow this flaw. I will say that 2004's midsection appears more cinched in than in 2003. However, does it really matter? Well, in such a close call like this, it probably does. Obviously, one can argue that Ronnie was transitioning out or into the most muscular pose, causing the midsection to be more distended for 2003. However, that would feed into my point that Ronnie's midsection wasn't nearly as tight as in 04, specifically in this pose. Since this isn't video footage, it is hard to really know. However, as it is, 04 is comparable in the arms, delts, chest, and quads, and has a tighter waist. For that reason, I would go with 04. However, a better picture for 2003 may change that decision. Alright guys, that's it for this video. In short, I actually had 2004 winning 5 out of the 8 poses, upsetting the most widely regarded best bodybuilding physique, being 2003 Ronnie Coleman. That said, reading in between the lines will show you that 2003 could have easily won the front lat spread, side chest, rear double, and side tricep, and convincingly won the ab and thigh and front double. Every single pose that 04 won, except for maybe the front lat spread, was a debatable pose that could have gone to 03. So, while 2004 took home the victory, I'd actually say that these two physiques are on par with each other. It was basically a fresher, finely detailed Ronnie versus a robust, grainier, and slightly better posed Ronnie, but only in certain poses, that is. Now, the margins were so close between the two that subjectivity was ultimately employed to judge, something that's completely unavoidable in a sport surrounding the notion of who looks better. Ultimately, this one could have gone to either of them, and I am interested in hearing which version you had winning. Let me know if there are any other comparisons or general video ideas you want to see, and if you enjoyed the video overall. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.